right, welcome to the weekly Q&A session. My name is Maverick. This is HypnoSeller's weekly Q&A session, and I am glad you all are here today. The date is July 25th of 2026. And as always, I start out by showing of those of you that are in the community, and this is it so far. 18 or 19 of us, maybe 20 by now, and we're adding more each week. So please tell your friends, copy the links that are in the HypnoSellers interface when you come to visit the community. Copy that and send it to your friends and invite them, because once we get past 50 members, I will no longer offer it for free anymore. We will start charging at that point. It'll be a small amount each month, but I will start charging after 50 people have joined. So you all are luckily within the 50. So you all get to stay here for free as long as you don't leave the group. All right. Today, let's see if there's any questions first. All right. I don't think I see any questions. So this week we had a couple questions come into the posting and the community posts, both from the same individual named Birch. His name is Birch, and he first posted a particular, he wanted to talk about a particular topic, which is he's lost all of his champions at a particular account that he's working on. So in sales, this happens sometimes, not all the time, but it does happen whenever you lose someone that you're working with. They leave the company, or they get transferred, or whatever, and you no longer can work with them. They might still be there, but you just no longer work with them for the particular opportunity you're working on closing, like with your service or product, or whatever you're trying to figure out a solution with them together. In this case, he's mentioning in this post that, like, everybody was gone. Everybody got laid off. So he and his team have nobody to talk to. So what do you do? So I wanted to address that. Of course, you can go add your feedback and comments to that post and give your 2 cents about what you think advice or whatever, what you think he should do or how he can handle it if it's ever happened to you. And I want to also do the same thing today as well. The second topic that Birch also posted in the community for us was this topic about friction, and about how sometimes it feels awkward or uneasy to confront someone when you know there's some friction involved. And he's saying that he heard from a selling partner, that told him friction was good and was convincing him that friction was good, but he wants to know what we think about that. Do you think friction is good, or do you think friction is not good? And if it is good, how do you use it? How do you leverage it? So I wanted to talk about that today as well. Okay, so let's take the first one, losing your champion. All right, you're in an account, you're working with a bunch of different people in the account, and one of them leaves. Okay, one of them leaves, maybe it's your champion. What do? You got to find another champion, right? Well, it's a little easier when it's just that champion that leaves and you're still working with other contacts within an account. Much easier, because you could just talk to them and figure out with them and partner with them to find out how to either cultivate, test, identify, and cultivate a champion from that group, a new one, or to figure out if they can help you find someone that can help champion this, particularly someone that has access to the economic buyer that can influence them, because usually champions will be able to do that. If they can't influence the economic buyer, typically we would consider them to be a coach. They can coach us, but they can't really do anything. Champions can actually talk to and schedule for us and get them in the room, and influence them and get them to make a decision if it makes sense. If everyone is comfortable with the solution that both you and they are coming up with together and negotiating. That's the idea. So what do you do though when you lose, like, all of them, all your champions, all your contacts? You have nothing left. There's no one to talk to. What do? You don't want to just roll off the deal or just let the deal die and go away. You want to keep it going, the momentum going, if you've already had some momentum in the account already. So what do? So first thing, which I advise, is find an SDR and ADR, which is an account or sales development rep, to help you, because usually you're in the account because they probably found the first contacts. Now, what you may or may not know is most ADRs, SDRs probably talk to 5 people, maybe even up to 10 people sometimes, before they find the ones that they end up sharing with you and getting you in contact with and getting things going. So, in other words, when they're trying to navigate and penetrate into the account to figure out who do I talk to about our product or service, they probably talk to a lot of other people, and they still have that contact, those contact names. They still have some of those relationships potentially that they could go back to and say, hey, could you help us find somebody different? So I don't want to understate how like effective this is. If you can get an ADR, SDR that already has some relationship in there that maybe they just didn't share with you because it didn't matter when they were introducing you to the right people that you needed to talk to about your product or service, get them to introduce you to some of the other people that weren't related that could still maybe help you. They helped us already once, they might help us again. So let's go and see what who that is and what they say. Okay. Second thing that I would suggest is work with a partner rep or partner. So sometimes within your company, you might have a partner rep that's working with partners. They can go find a partner if there's not one involved already and get that partner to help us figure out who in the account we can maybe talk to about what's going on. Typically there's probably a partner involved, and if there is, if especially if it's a larger solution that you're working on together with the client or prospect, so the partner will probably already be ahead of you. By the time you find out that they've been laid off, the partner may already know that they've been laid off and they're already trying to find some, scramble to find somebody different to work with. So don't underestimate the power of your partnerships rep or a partner that's directly working with you. So that's where I would go next. And then if you don't have any of that, you're going to have to do it yourself. And guess what? There's prospecting tools in your account that you may not know is there. The ADRs, SDRs usually use them. Other salespeople may use them. You just may not be aware that you have them because maybe you've never had to use them before. Depending on what you sell and how you sell, maybe you don't. Maybe you don't ever do it that much. But there are tools like Navigator. Sales Navigator is probably the number one. That's one I use. And then you can also just use your regular LinkedIn profile and try to connect to people, go find them and then ask them if you can connect and then start talking to them. You can just network your way in that way. But like things like Zoom Info and Apollo also can get you emails, get you phone numbers. Sales Navigator usually can get you phone numbers, and then you can like call and leave messages and try to prospect your way back into the account. But the added benefit is that you've already have a relationship with the previous people that left, so you can call in and say, "Hey, we were working on a deal. Can somebody help us keep this going?" Or somebody re-engage with us, and that's different. That's a little warmer than if you're just calling in cold. You can say, "We've already been working with you guys. We'd like to know where we stand and if we can keep going or not." So you can use that to your advantage to keep the momentum going by expressing to the new person that there's momentum here and you probably need to jump on board and help us to keep going with this. And believe it or not, that you can persuade them and make them feel comfortable to actually do that, and they'll be like, yeah, what do you need? Whatever you need, we'll find someone. And you'll be surprised how easy it is when you kind of use that as a way to kind of motivate them, because they don't want to let you down, basically, even though they may not know you, because they know you made a lot of progress and they want to support that, and they don't want their company to look bad. Basically, they have a reputation as a company to protect, just like you do. You would do the same thing if someone asked you the same thing, right? So take advantage of that if you have to do it yourself. Otherwise, find a partner or find an SDR, ADR to help you. All right. And then the other topic that he posted was about friction, and is friction good? He was asking for our opinions. Please post your opinions in there, your advice, your recommendations, feedback on this if you want. I'm going to go through what I call the 4 F's of friction alleviation. I'm just making this up, but this is just my style. This is how I do it. Okay. So the first one is fiction. Okay. So perceived or assumed, friction is perceived or assumed. It's not as real as you think. So I call it fiction. Friction is fiction. It's not real. It's a perceived thing. It's whatever weight or value you give it. If you want to make it strong and make it something that scares you or make it something that you're kind of don't feel comfortable with, that's because you're doing that. You're perceiving it that way and you're making a lot of assumptions that are leading to that type of result. So don't allow your assumptions to get the best of you. Ask questions, figure out if the friction is really there. Often when you ask more questions, you will find it's not as bad as you think. And if you want, sometimes you can pretend it's not even there, and sometimes it won't even show up anymore because you pretended that it wasn't even there because you didn't give into your assumptions that it was. So it's up to you to kind of alter your perception and re-perceive it a different way, or don't allow the perception to keep going in your mind, keep permeating all throughout your thoughts. Just put it aside and keep going. You might find that it's not as bad as you think if you just choose not to perceive it that way. So I found this to be true. It's usually not as bad as I think. I make it up more in my mind as I go. So that's one F of the friction, and then the second F is flow. So if you've ever studied judo or watched people play judo, the whole art of judo is being able to align and move with the momentum of the partner or the opponent. So when the opponent's coming after you, you have to anticipate where they're going, and you grab the sleeves or their collar or whatever, and then you kind of figure out where they're going, and in whichever direction they're coming at you, you kind of move backwards and kind of pull them towards that. Or if they pull you, you push towards them and push them down or pull them down. So it's an art of like kind of who can align and flow better with the other person, because if they do it first, you're going to go down. If they align with you and move with you first, you're going to be on the floor on the mat. So you don't go against it. So when someone shows resistance, if your immediate reaction is to resist, then you're going to pull from each other or you're going to push towards each other, and that's going to create more friction, perceived friction. But if I'm able to align and flow with your perceived friction, then I can actually remove it and get rid of the friction altogether. So in other words, I might agree with you if you say this price is too high. And you've probably seen people do this, and maybe you probably do this maybe subconsciously. If someone says, your price is too high, you say, yes, it is. And there's a reason for that. And so in other words, I agree with them. So I don't leave the friction be the objection. I just agree with them. Yes, it is, depending on though how, and I qualify it, depending on who you are. Some of our customers say it's not expensive. A lot of others do. The reason they do is because of usually they don't see enough value in it for them. So the value of what they're paying for doesn't seem worth it. And that's what it seems like with you. It doesn't seem like you feel it's worth it, do you? And then you can kind of just go with them and agree with them to where then it's like the friction kind of goes away, and now you're just speaking the truth from their perspective. And then you can have a chance to then bring them out of that into a new perspective, which goes into my third one, which is framing. You can then set meta expectations, and you can reframe how that friction was into something that's like more smooth. It's not as rough as you thought because you set the meta expectations. And if you remember, we talk about meta expectations in the other trainings I have on here in the group. um, I talk about logical levels, and if you remember, logical levels is about understanding the congruency between their identity, belief, capability, behavior, and environment, which correspond to the who, why, how, what, and when, where questions that we ask. So if you ask some questions, different questions, and figure out these different levels, you can reframe and restate what the belief should be or the capability should be by describing how and describing why, instead of just taking at face value of what. When you stay at the what level, the behavior level, then you're just going to have like the friction level. That's where the friction exists. But when you move to the how or the capability of what's enabling that friction to happen and why it's enabling it, then you can reframe how it's being enabled or how it's being created, and you can recreate a different how that then causes the friction to be basically eliminated, because you give a reason why the capability works that way, and then it ends up being something that they can't really use against you, and it doesn't really exist anymore. So again, remember, this is all perception. So what you're doing is you're reframing the perception, which if you don't do it, they're going to do it to you. Your customers and prospects do this to you all the time. So you're just using the same technique back on them, but more systematically using logical levels to reframe it. So in other words, I might say, well, the price is too high. If you go through the process with us, I think you might find out that as you get to learn about our product, you might start to think that and believe that maybe there's more to it and there's more value. If we can get to that part, then I feel like you would probably feel like our price is just. And that's what I've done with other customers. Other customers have told me that, and that's why I'd like to continue to try to show you the value, to see if you can understand and maybe perceive the price as not being so high when it's compared to the value that I can bring. Would you be willing to let me do that, or let me show you that? So anyway, I'm just making this up, but what I'm doing there is I'm talking about some of the how and some of the why, some of my belief about it, why I want to do it that way, and so I can kind of reframe it to where it kind of dissolves that friction from there, from that situation. And again, take the training if you and I talk about the meta expectations, and then you can learn to apply it yourself. And we'll probably I think we're going to create some more trainings here around that as well, based on the fact that you're asking this question. All right, and then the last one is fractionation. So this is a hypnotic phrase, a hypnotic, like if you're a hypnotist, you learn about fractionation. And fractionation is a way of deepening someone into a hypnotic state. So, and remember, hypnotic states are like states of focus. You're focusing them more and more and more. And then I use this also as a way to make customers and prospects feel more comfortable and more comfortable. Like the deeper comfort they feel, the more likely they are to easily make a decision and work with me on whatever we're working on, a solution, a negotiation, like whatever it is. They're going to feel more comfortable if I can use fractionation to move them in and out of the friction and create more comfort as I go. So the analogy I use here is, imagine you're in a pool and you're in the shallow end of a pool. Maybe it's only 2 feet and you're crouched down, you're crouching in the shallow end of the pool. So the water's up to your neck, your head sticking out. That's it. And let's say the water's like, it's kind of lukewarm, it's tepid maybe. It's nothing, it's not too hot, not too cold, it's just regular temperature. Okay. But let's say there's a breeze and the breeze is blowing. So imagine the breeze is blowing and it starts to pick up, it starts to get windy, and you stood up at that moment. Imagine standing up out of the water and having that cool wind start rushing and start hitting you and rushing past you in your skin. It starts making you really cold. Your skin gets really cold at that point. So then imagine now, after your skin's getting really cold from all the wind like hitting it and blowing past it, and then you get back in the water again. Have you ever done that? How does it feel? Right? Feels warmer. In fact, sometimes it feels hot now. Like it was tepid before, now it feels super hot. Now, why is that? Obviously, you probably know it's relative to the temperature of your skin before it got into the water. So before, when your skin was the same temperature, it was even in balance, what they call equilibrium. It was balanced with the water, so you couldn't tell how hot or cold it was. It was just regular, tepid. But when you got out of the water, stood up out of the water, and the wind started blowing and causing your skin to get colder and colder and colder, and then you immediately went back in the water. Now the difference is warmer, right? It's a difference in being warmer. If you keep doing that, you're going to keep getting warmer and warmer and warmer. So the idea is, imagine the wind as friction. The friction was causing it to get colder, and then when you got back in the water, you got comfortable again. So you went from comfort to discomfort and then back to comfort again. And then if you stand up again, you go to discomfort and back to comfort again. So maybe it's not that uncomfortable to get cold air on you, but you get the point. It's just you're going in and out of comfort. And the more you go out and come back, the more you feel more comfortable relative to where you were when you first started. You always feel more comfortable. The water feels more warmer and warmer. Eventually, feels hotter and hotter and hotter, and you start to notice the difference. So that's what I like to do with the friction. So I might actually create some friction in a conversation with someone in order to make them feel slightly uncomfortable, but then I'll bring them back to and I'll talk to them in a way that removes the friction. So now, relative to that friction they felt for a little bit, brings them back. So if, like, for example, I might say, you know what, I'm going to charge you like 3 times of what everybody else charges you for this. You're going to pay X, 3X what you would normally pay. Or at least and then I'll like stop and let them kind of feel like, what? You're going to charge me? And they kind of get some friction, right? 3 times. What are you talking about? And I go, but but then that's what I was thinking yesterday. I'm not going to do that today. I've decided I'm going to actually reduce it by half, and then I just go back down to even something more comfortable than what I just proposed to them. So I tell them I was going to do that. They don't know if I'm really going to do it or not. I say I was going to, but I was going to do that. I've decided I'm not going to do that. We're going to go half price. So now I've just fractionated them into briefly thinking it was going to be more, and then, but and I'm not lying to them. I really was thinking about doing that, but then I decided to make it half price. So that's just an example, an extreme example. I wouldn't necessarily suggest you use that really with a customer, but I'm using it as a way to help you understand what I'm talking about. The way you talk to someone and the way they perceive. Remember, friction is a perception. So if they perceive that friction and then they perceive that you've taken the friction away, it actually is good. So With that said, I will just answer this question that friction is good if it's used correctly, if you identify it and recognize it, and you're able to apply it in the right way, and you're able to recognize it when someone else is applying it to you and be able to reframe it to remove it, and just go with the flow and kind of use that friction against them and kind of like take control of it again once you go with it. So like if you had a tug of war, it's like let go of the rope. If you're having a tug of war, just let go of the rope, let them fall, and then go over there and help them pick them back up to stand back up. That's how I would. That's how I'd frame it. Okay, and then last but not least, in today's session, we have a post here that I made. I talked about it last week where I'm asking the group, the community here, if there's certain things you'd like me to schedule, like guided group meditation, live hypno sales trainings on a specific topic, like meeting control, or some of the, like even this, what we just talked about today, role play scenarios, question with a question, demoing, negotiation, practice, or something like that, and then technique practice, maybe practicing the pain scale rating technique or comfort control technique, or embedded commands. I love practicing embedded commands because once you start to do it, you start to realize, oh, okay, I can. This is easy, but you have to practice with other people sometimes. I think so. Anyway, the response I got back from a few of you was that you liked these three things and you didn't like the group meditation so much. All right, so that's totally fine. Then that means that I need to start figuring out how I'm going to schedule some of these out during the week. If you could comment or let me know what time you'd like to meet, I think that'd be great. If you're thinking about joining a group, if you're watching this and you haven't joined yet, please join, and then you can let me know what kind of times you want to get these kinds of trainings, and we'll do some workshops and we'll have some fun with it. As you know, I've been doing this for a long time. I've had lots of groups, work groups like this in the past at different companies and different locations, different situations. This is the first time we're able to do it just as our own community. We'll do it ourselves. And if you want to do this each week and do a different one, let's start doing it. Let's figure it out. Okay. And then last but not least, I have over here the classroom. I have broken out the masterclass that I had before of hypnosales masterclass into these separate courses now. And I put my little picture here pointing at it or whatever, being goofy. As you all know, I'm kind of goofy this way, but it's everyone else in the school seems to be doing it like this. They always have somebody pointing at it. So I just wanted to kind of do what they're doing. I think that's kind of cool, and I'm wearing my hypnoseller shirt or whatever. So anyway, I've broken these out to make these a little bit easier. And just know that what I'm planning to do is I'm planning to like consolidate a lot of these down into some smaller, more concise trainings with slides and a little bit more easier to follow that kind of matches the book. Comfort Control Selling kind of matches this one. I'm planning to do that because of some of the feedback I've gotten from you all saying, this is too much. And I agree. This is just too much, too dense. Someone said this is too dense. I agree with them. It is dense. It's just a lot of stuff. You don't need to know all this stuff. You just need to need like the footnotes or the cliff notes or the bullet points or whatever. So what I'm going to do is start consolidating all of these down into a smaller set that's more concise to the point, and then I'll offer them and train them on here. And maybe that's one of the weekly things we do is delivering those, and then I can capture those. And when I capture it, then I'll just put it here as a class, and then I'll also be able to use those condensed versions as ways to sell, at within companies. So if a company decides, hey, I want you to bring hypno sales into our company, I can come do that if you want. Like even if your company, you're like, hey, I like this. Hey, Maverick, would you come train us at our company, all of our salespeople or all of our SEs or customer success or whatever? Then I can just come there and I can do that on a Zoom and do that for them if they want. So either way, I think we need to consolidate it and capture it. So that's the goal. And I am going to stop sharing now and see what you all have asked in the chat. If any more questions, I don't know if I see any. I see some of you there. I guess I don't have anything else. Any questions? Anything I can answer for you this week? Anything? All right. I don't see any other questions, and I don't see any comments. You're welcome. Thank you. Thanks for joining. We'll see you all later on, actually next week, and look forward to more changes and updates. And good luck and happy selling. Thanks. Bye.